Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to make a hat on your Addi King Knitting Machine in 30 minutes or less. So today I'm using a worsted weight yarn to make this hat. This is Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn, and this is one of the printed ones, the self striping or ombre. And I'm going to start by casting on all the way around in circular knitting mode, starting with the first black needle. Alright, I'm going to sit my yarn in the yarn guide, clear my row counter, and I'm going to knit about 60, 65 to 70 rows. This can also depend on the thickness of your worsted weight yarn, because worsted weight yarns, some are thicker than others, some are thinner. And also the size of your hat. If you're doing it for somebody with a smaller head, you're going to do fewer rows. And if you're doing for someone with a larger head, then you're going to need a few more rows to make it longer, so it'll actually be long enough for the head. So I'm going to knit about 60 to 65 rows. Alright, so there's my 60 rows. And now we need to measure it to make sure that it's the right length, because every yarn is going to give a slightly different length or gauge with the tension that you use in your hand and through the yarn guide. So what I'm going to do is kind of stretch this tube a little bit, not a whole lot, and then I'm going to measure it. I'm going to uncurl the end and measure it. Now this is about almost 11 inches, and this is already stretched pretty taut all the way around, so it's actually going to be a little bit longer than what it is right now on the machine when this top inch or so becomes unstretched around this way. It'll stretch more the other way. Addi hats are usually reversible if they are double thick, but I'm going to make it with a different color on the other side so that you can turn it inside out and use the other color, wear it with the other color. So I'm going to cut my yarn here, bring it behind the last white needle, drop that white needle so that it catches the yarn, and then I'm going to attach my new color, this purple. And I'm going to sink a few stitches with that yarn, tie the tails together in a double knot, just to make it extra secure, because if you don't tie them together, then it will leave a hole and it'll unravel. And now to make the inside of the hat, I'm going to knit 60 more rows. And one thing I want to mention, a lot of people tend to think that they need a special table for their Addi with a hole in the middle so that their longer projects can go down into the hole in the middle of the table and spin around in there without causing any resistance to what's knitting at the top. But there is a very easy solution that does not cost any money and does not require a special table. All you have to do is take your tube that you're working with, and instead of letting it pile up at the bottom and cause resistance to the circle of knitting at the top, you just take your tube and roll it up inside itself like a little donut, like that. And as it gets longer, then you just keep rolling it up, and then you don't require any special table. The knitting that you've already done still provides a little bit of weight to the knitting at the top, and it does not cause any resistance to the knitting that you're working on. So I'm just going to move these little tails out of the way and knit 60 more rows with my new yarn. so now I have 120 rows, 60 of the first color and 60 of the second color. And now I'm going to make sure that that last white needle catches the yarn. And I'm going to cut the yarn, leaving a small tail, long enough to go about halfway around the bed of the Addi. And I have a yarn needle here, and I'm going to start picking up the stitches off the needles all the way around. So as each needle drops, I'm going to pick up the stitch that is held on the little red pegs from either side of the needle. Alright, so I got all my stitches all the way around. And now we're going to unroll the rest of our tube. And to finish the hat, this is very easy. We're just going to pull on the piece of yarn that our yarn needle is holding, where we just threaded it through all the stitches. And then I'm going to reach my hand up through the top of the hat and stick my yarn needle down through that little hole. And I'm also going to pinch that end just for the moment to turn it inside out when I pull it through. And now, since I've pulled that circle tightly closed, I'm going to pick up a few strands of yarn from very close to the center of the circle, wrap my yarn needle around to make a knot, and tie a little knot in that yarn. Now, the best thing about the Addi hats being double-sided is that you don't have to weave in any of your tails because they're encased inside the hat and they can't get out. So I'm just going to cut it to about 6 inches, turn it back right side out. So there's the one end of my hat. And I'm going to close the other end by taking the cast on tail, just pulling on it until I close up this end. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing. I'm going to thread it into my yarn needle. And I'm going to pull it tight. Pick up a few strands of yarn from very close to the hole. Wrap my yarn around to make a knot. And tighten it. Now what I'm going to do to make this a hat, instead of a long tube with the ends closed up, is I'm going to pinch the fold line here where that we changed colors all the way around, and then I'm just going to turn the one end of the tube to the inside of the other tube, the other part of the tube, like so. And I'm going to turn it inside out, or right side out, if you want to use this as the right side, so you can see how I'm attaching this. Now what I'm going to do here is take my yarn needle, put it down through the hole in the middle of that first piece, and I want to make sure that on the other side it's also coming up through the hole on the other side of the hat. And I'm going to take a couple stitches to tack the inside of the hat to the outside of the hat. So I like to do that kind of like a compass, north, south, east, and west. So I'm going to go up just a little bit, come out just a little higher than the center of the hole on the other side. Pull that tight, go back down through the hole, making sure that I'm coming up through the hole on this side. And even if your yarn is a different color, you really won't be able to see those stitches that tack it because there's so much fabric all bunched together at the top. So there's north, then I'm going to go south, go down with the stitch just a little bit below the hole on both sides. Then I'm going to go back down through the center of the hole. Then I'm going to go east, take a stitch to the side. Same on the outside here. Back down through the center of the hole. And west, so just to the other side of that hole. So now that I've got that attached, I'm just going to go ahead and make another knot. You don't want to make your knot on the opposite side of the hat because then your different colored knot will show through. So I'm just going to make a knot right there. I'm going to slip my yarn needle in between the two layers of the hat and make sure that it's not poking out anywhere on either side. Just in between the layers, come up somewhere, pull my tail through, kind of stretch it a little bit, cut my yarn, and you have finished a brand new knitted hat on your Addi knitting machine. And this length is in total about 11 inches long, and this is a good size for an adult hat, and it gives a brim when you wear it that's about 2 inches high. And if you put this on a smaller head, you know, maybe a teenager or a bigger kid, then the brim will just be a little bit bigger. And these hats are very warm and stretchy because they have 2 layers in them, so they're extra insulating. And they only take 30 minutes to make. I made this hat in 30 minutes, even though I was talking to you guys and teaching you how to do it. So it goes a little bit faster when you're not trying to teach other people how to do it. So if you make this at home, once you've made at least one, then you can make these in 30 minutes or less. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how you like to make your Addi hats in the comments below. Like this video if you loved it, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.